Welcome to AI Almighty. We got a lot of interesting things to talk about this week, all revolving around one subject I'd like to talk to you about. And that is, there was an article that came out that the military did some tests with AI.
Oh.
The person claims that they had the drone go destroy something. So, hey, take a missile and go blow this up.
Okay.
And obviously this is all simulation. No bombs were actually dropped or anything. But supposedly the simulation went where they went to do it and the person told them to stop. And so the drone actually went and metaphorically killed the operator. And then they made sure it wouldn't kill the operator. And then it went and blew up the system to communicate between the two things.
Okay, wait. So Army sends a drone. The operator of this fake place.
The drone operator.
Oh no, the drone operator told it to stop. And then it did not stop.
It did not stop because the argument is that it was trying to carry out its mission of blowing up this, building or whatever it was blowing up. And because it, was doing something that the drone thought was stopping it from blowing up this house or whatever it was, I don't know. It came back and blew up the drone operator. And then they ran the simulation again, and instead of blowing up the drone operator, it blew up the communication system between the drone operator and the drone, the antenna or whatever. So that way they couldn't communicate with each other. So that way the drone could do what it wanted.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Like I said, this machine is a pragmatist. And nothing will stop it until it gets to its goal.
Well, I didn't research this article. The military denies it. Whether it really happened or not, I'm not 100% sure. But I'm not even, super worried about it. I'm guessing they won't deploy it if it has this, particular behavior. What I wanted to talk to you about specifically was, have you thought about how AI will work in warfare? So what I mean is, when we used to go to war, we used to actually go to war a lot more. I mean, if you think about the times in David, they went out to war every year. I mean, that seems pretty wild.
Yeah. What was it, like 100,000 foreskins?
Yeah, it's like, just like a lot of war going on. So anyway, I've never gone to war or really had to, or even really was worried about a draft in my life, and I'm frankly probably too old now, maybe. So I've pretty much missed it. But a lot of people, the adult men went out to war every year. So war seems like a little bit less than we used to on average. But we also sort of disconnect ourselves from war. So I don't want to get into the details, but as America or the Western or China maybe, or other advanced countries that have advanced technologies, we can just blow people up and not even have to send anybody, right? We send a drone, remote control, blow them up, and we don't have to worry about American casualties and whatever complaints people might have, or the family members of these people that are died. We can have less and less death, and less death is good. But does it cause us to be more trigger happy to go kill people or meddle in other countries' stuff or whatever because there's less consequences? What do we do? Lose a drone and claim it wasn't ours? It pretty much is what seems like the biggest thing. And with AI coming on board, if it's really, really good, literally the person doesn't even have to drive it. I mean, you just type the buttons in and go. Is this going to change warfare? Are we gonna want to go to war more because it's so easy?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I think the same thing kind of happened when the atomic bomb came out. It was like, oh my goodness, now we have something that can just microwave everybody in a split second. And everybody freaked out, which I think was rational. And I think that because we can kind of look back and no country has really used it to wipe out the world yet, I feel mildly confident that we won't use AI in the same way. However, when it comes to countries' own people on a national level, I think that they might use it to shut down mobs, to shut down certain gangs, kind of more on a national level. And that
you mean domestically?
Domestically,
we'll use it as an anti-gang or something.
I think it could replace the police force very easily.
That's interesting you say that, because I know there is a city here in Kansas that tried to get the city to have cameras installed along the light posts. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that system, I don't want to speak out of turn, I don't think that one did facial recognition. I think it was just reading everyone's license plate.
Yeah.
But supposedly they were gonna. Yeah, it got denied. This particular,
denied.
But
the cameras are still up, but they don't work.
The city I know of that did it, the city didn't approve it. But one of the arguments that the police had to say we should have this was all the other cities around it already had it. So, you have Olathe, you have, all these other towns, right? So in this particular place, most of the other towns around it had it, and this person denied it. And I know a little bit more about it because this town, I know someone who is a part of that decision. But we are already putting cameras places. Now, not like China. China's got cameras absolutely everywhere, is my understanding.
So scary.
Yeah.
What a world to live in.
So we domestically do watch ourselves. Now, companies do it too, right? Facebook or any app that's on your phone is watching. Yeah, we're all monitored. So will it just be? You think this? I'm kind of going around in circles here. I'm sorry, but I guess what I was trying to get at is: do you think this will turn into more violence because the AI will help the government be able to enforce things in a more violent way?
I think that it will be dangerous for us because I think that it might take a step away from law and order. Example, like right now, if a cop kills somebody and it goes on the media, it's like people can kind of have their debates. Was this called for? Was this not called for? And then there's a process. If somebody sitting in an office, like a government official, tells this AI to carry something out, and then somebody dies, like, there is no argument.
Well, at least there would be video of the event happening.
Right.
And they could say it was unjustified or whatnot. And then you could maybe see who gave the order.
Right.
And whatnot. And I assume, what would be really a shame is that the AI did it, it's not my fault.
Yeah,
I mean, that can't.
It was
we can't allow.
accident.
Yeah, we can't allow that to happen.
We're so sorry.
If it accidentally kills the wrong people, we obviously shouldn't be employing it.
Yes, and it would be very obvious. But I can see it happening like that, or like instead of like the police officers going to break a mob up, it just being like drones that are AI controlled, and then they do it that way.
Yeah, I'm seeing some positive and negative there. I hadn't thought much about the domestic aspect, but you've probably seen lots of videos where people have interactions with the police, and obviously most of the time people are jerks and to the police, or sometimes the interactions are fine. We never hear about those, but the ones you hear about, a lot of times people are very mean to the police, and sometimes the police are just absolutely insufferable jerks as well, right? And they sometimes they get in trouble for it, sometimes they don't. Now that we have cameras, they're more likely to get in trouble for it. But it's partly because I remember how a police officer told me one day, like, one of his coworkers came in and he said, "Well, I'm gonna beat somebody up today." That wasn't the language that he used, but it was like, "I'm mad. I've had a bad day." So and he worked in the gym.
I'm gonna take it out on somebody.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it out on somebody, right? And if you had machines be able to do it, there would be.
Less of that.
Yeah, I mean, some person could cuss the.
It would not be emotional. But the scary thing about that is, like, if it is a pragmatist and they don't work these kinks out, it's going to be like, okay, your mission is this. And so then if you have somebody who's, like, surrendering, or a different person walks in and they're, like, a twin, they're, like, slightly resemble, like, what's going to happen then?
Right. What about this idea? And I think I probably stole this from Elon Musk probably. But what if the robot or the thing that was enforcing it was actually extremely weak? So in Britain, they have names for them that they basically run around with whistles. They're police officers, they have no weapons, and they run around with whistles.
They're just a deterrent.
And they do traffic enforcement a lot of times. So if you get stopped by one of these people, even if you have a gun, this guy's going to give you a ticket. He can't arrest you. She can't do anything to you. She doesn't have any arms.
Security guard.
Yeah. So it's just like, you can either, take your ticket and go home. Or, I guess you could, whatever, but, you don't have to worry about them arresting you. Whereas now, if you get stopped by a police officer,
you are worried.
Worried about getting arrested. It could escalate, so on and so forth. So if you had some kind of robot that, when I say weak, I just mean like the actuators, the actual things that run the robot are weak. It can't run.
Just nobody knew that.
Yeah, it can't sprint. Yeah. So it comes up and says, hey, don't do this anymore. I'm enforcing this. And that person just decides to run away. Okay. I mean, that's it. And so instead of making robots we think of as super powerful, Terminator, super strong, super fast, I mean, it seems like you could just make the robots so pathetically weak that while they would be useful and that they would be calm and they wouldn't yell at people and they could enforce things, if the person interacting with the robot decided to escalate it, damage the robot, run away, whatever, okay, well, then we go on to a next step.
Well,
but
I mean, It might even just be like a federal crime. You know, if you like hurt a fire hydrant or like
That's
a
right.
fire thing, it's like a federal crime.
Yeah, if you just decide to destroy it, which of course will have you on camera, and if you decide to run away, you go, okay, well that's fine. You know, we'll we
find you later.
You'll find you later. You know, but like we do now. I mean, that's how we do it now.
But if the people know that, like, once the people start to learn that the machines are incredibly weak, do you think it would still work just because the people know that they're on camera?
It would work for some things for sure, because if I'm going to get a ticket essentially where I got to drop $150 or whatever a ticket costs for something illegal thing I did, it's not worth running away and having a warrant out for my harass.
Right,
so
right.
I'm just gonna
Okay.
let the thing give me the ticket, right?
So what about you know how like some people will buy blockers, like truckers will buy blockers so their bosses don't know like where they're driving or whatever on the GPS. What if people started putting like AI blockers in their car? Is that even possible, or would that not work?
You know, I don't know. I'm sure there will be a lot of technological advances that I can't foresee, so I'm not sure how that would work. It's just how the AI is used. If the AI is in cameras with microphones on it that can talk, that's one way. If it's in a humanoid form, that'd be another way. But the domestic thing will be interesting how it goes about, because I think in China they have a lot lower crime than we do here. So violent crime for sure. Like Hong Kong is a safer city than Wichita is.
Yeah, but
But they have a lot of surveillance, right? They have.
they'll just kill you on the spot. Too.
They don't think they kill.
They will.
They do not.
I know somebody who lives there, dude. She's like
they
will
live
kill
in
you on the spot.
Hong Kong. They'll kill you on the spot.
Not Hong Kong, China. Annie.
So I worked with a lady who lived in Hong Kong, and she was scared to death to move to Wichita because it was so violent, and I was just adamant that Hong Kong was more dangerous than Wichita was, and I looked it up and looked it up and looked it up, and basically got made to look like a fool because Wichita was more violent than Hong Kong was.
I don't know. I'm just telling you. My friend Annie from China, she says that people who go to church and they're in their basement and their church, they get killed all the time.
That may be, I'm not sure what the rules are about certain things, but their violent crime is low. It's very hard to get away because they can see everything. So will the U.S. move to that? Will other countries move to the surveillance? I almost am just like, the phones, they have your phones. I mean, if it's very hard. I mean, and you're like, well, Facebook or whoever shouldn't let the government track. I mean, if the government comes with a gun and goes to Apple and says, we want to know where somebody is, what's Apple supposed to do? They can't stop them. And a lot of bad things are used. The encryption of Apple and stuff is used for child trafficking and whatnot. So it's even hard to know how much Apple should be allowed to keep the government out, because then people do really bad things with it. So it's a tricky situation. But let's go back to the war. The domestic is very, very interesting. Do you think we will go kill some leader in some South American country we don't like because they won't let us have bananas or whatever it is? That's kind of an old
Could
example.
we? Absolutely. Will we? I don't know. And should we? Probably. There's probably a few we should have taken out a long time ago. Like,
maybe,
Venezuela needs help.
Yeah, but the problem we have had is the reason we've taken them out in the past were all in self-interest.
Right.
They weren't to help anybody.
It's not to help.
It was to help us.
Right.
And
which sucks that it has to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, the
probably just do it because they're suffering and they're under a dictator and everybody's starving and they're eating zoo animals.
Well, the silliest thing is
enough.
like the government of that country wanted to take over. I'm hoping I'm getting this right. Something to the effect of they grew bananas. They were owned by American companies, and the government said, "Hey, listen, we don't want these. We're gonna. This is our country. You make all the money out of our stuff.
Right.
We want our stuff back." And so the U.S. was like, let's install somebody that will let the American companies still, extract all the bananas out of there. So we depose whoever's going to rule.
Yeah.
And so even though that person was elected by the people, we went in and made sure someone who was going to be nice to our companies would rule. And of course, anywhere with oil, it's the same thing, right? Like if they have oil, Western companies want it. We make sure there's a dictator that, or whatever, that, someone in charge that we can have. I mean, it's really not America's choice if someone wants to be socialist or democratic. I mean, that's their choice.
Yeah,
I mean, they get to be what they want. So I'm worried we might just be more likely to do it for not great reasons, right? You see, it was rubber trees for a while, right? We did lots of bad stuff in order to get a hold of rubber trees. We, oil has been and gas has been, of course, the major one. All over the world, we've and anyone else that had the power to be able to do it did it. And so I was just kind of worried that if it just got so easy, that our government would be more likely to just go, we don't want that guy in charge, and we don't care if he got elected or or whatever, we want him to be nice to us. And if he isn't nice enough to us, we just tell the drone to go do it, and it gets done.
It'll probably happen.
Yeah.
It'll probably happen.
Yeah, it may. I don't know if it will.
If it does, we'll probably never hear about it. It'll be like, so-and-so just died suddenly, like nobody knows how.
If we do,
Bummer.
if we do hear about it, it'll be a mistake, or the people that it happens to will claim we did it and we'll deny it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, our government, if we're the ones that did it, will say, well, look,
it's a conspiracy.
It's a backwater country, or whatever they're going to say about it. You're really going to trust them? And sometimes the backwater country, which probably isn't even that backwater, but sometimes this actual country is telling the truth, but we don't believe them. And sometimes those countries lie.
But sometimes
we tell the truth. So who knows, right?
We will never know.
Who knows?
But it will probably happen.
Yeah. It seems like I'm a little worried it'll happen, and I don't know if
because they don't even have to kill anybody. They can just shut down their whole network, turn off their pacemakers, and end it that way.
I mean, if they could do that, that would be a really
and then nobody
powerful...
will hear from them. Nobody will even know. It'll just go dark on the map. No lights, no anything. It will be like,
If it's powerful enough to just hack anything to take down the pacemaker, I mean, that's a crazy amount of power.
What happened to Asia? It's gone. We removed it from the map. It's gone.
No one has an iPhone anymore because every single iPhone is made in Asia, so we're going to be in trouble there. I don't know. I'm interested to see how it's going to go. I'm thinking the hacking will only get so far because people will find counter hacking and just go off the grid enough so that they can't get hacked or whatever. But the way we kill people in the Middle East now is usually we drone strike them, right? We did it not that long ago to somebody who was a terrorist. I assume, I don't know the details, should I be careful? And actually, we were so careful that we sent a drone missile, and when it came to him, knives came out like swords and cut him apart.
Impressive.
And so no one else got hurt. So instead of blowing up his house and killing, we used to be, I guess, stinks to be his wife, this time we were actually able to, from the sky, kill just him.
Yeah.
And I could just see that, and I really hope that, we just don't get too trigger happy with that and just think, we got too trigger happy going into, during the Bush era, we went in when we, in hindsight, that wasn't a good idea. We just got a little trigger happy. I just feel it's like going to be a little bit easier to pull that trigger.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to whose hands it's in. Like, if it's in somebody with good motives, great. If it's in the hands of somebody with bad motives, we better watch out.
Yeah.
Total annihilation.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. The military is all over this. Even in that article where they denied having any involvement with this, the scenario I told you about, they still said, AI is the future. We can't deny it. We're working with it. We're trying to figure out what it can do. Mm-hmm. So it's with us, whether we want it to be or not. I just sure hope they have the moral backing to be able to do the right thing, because it might get easier and easier to do the wrong thing. Anyway, thanks again for joining us for the AI Almighty podcast, and we'll see you again next week.